Hello again to more Old Testament, and we're still in chapter 27 in Genesis, in the parsha or the part that the Jews call Tawalidot, which means the births, because this part of the scriptures is the part that talks about the births of Jacob and Esau, Jacob being a key figure, the father of the Jewish nation, and so Tawalidot. That's where we're at, and we've spoken earlier, learned earlier about the birth of Jacob and Esau. Learned about Jacob stealing the birthright, stealing Esau's birthright. So today is an exciting chapter because it's the famous story about Jacob now with Rebekah, his mother, stealing, so to speak, Esau's inheritance, Esau's barakot, Esau's blessing. Now, this is when I spoke earlier. I spoke about the Bekorah, which is the birthright. You're the firstborn, even though they are twins. Esau came out first, with Jacob holding his heel, so signifying the competition. Their mother's pregnancy was hard, signifying the competition they even had in the womb. So there is that birthright, the Bekorah, and then there is the Baraka. Baraka is the blessing. So this is the story of Bekorah and Baraka. And it's sort of poetic. It's sort of how you remember the story. That's what how the biblical authors usually organize some of these things. So one of the things that we've learned is that Esau was a hunter. Jacob was someone who dwelt in tents. He was a homebody, so to speak. Actually, the Gaon translation sort of uses the word savage in Arabic, which means someone who is someone who is not good at much, someone who doesn't understand much, someone who has sort of learning difficulties of sorts. So they call him savage. While Esau, he's the hunter. He's born with a lot of hair. He's called Esau because he has this virility and manliness about him, and he's very good with the hunting. So he, in that environment, must have been a provider of lots of meat for his family, because usually you keep the cattle. You can't just slaughter your cattle. You have to keep it for milk and hair and all kinds of things, all kinds of products. So hunting was a main source of income, and whoever provided it wielded lots of power in the tribe. So, in the eyes of Rebekah and Jacob, Esau must have seemed invincible as the heir to his father's fortune, the heir to the blessing. Even though he has sold his birthright, he still can get this blessing from his father. And in the culture at the time, a blessing isn't a blessing like the one you give to one son in the household and you then can give it again, or something. It's not something you can retract. Once it's given, it's given. It's sort of your word of honor, that the blessing is yours, regardless of how it is obtained. Once you get the blessing, you have the blessing. So Esau must have looked as a formidable competition, and that's why when the time comes, Isaac is almost blind. He can't see. He sees things in shadows, and he calls in his son Esau, and he asks him to go and hunt and fix him food, and basically says, "My soul wants to bless you before I die." So for Esau, this is it. This is the moment I get the barakah. I get the blessing. I lost the birthright, but I can still get the barakah. The so Esau goes. Rebecca hears about it, whether she's listening in or someone else tells her. She knows, and she starts a conspiracy with Jacob so that Jacob can get the blessing. Some people might ask, why would Isaac ask his son to go out to the desert and go through all the trouble of hunting with his bow and arrow, as the story says, because he tells him, get your bow, get your tools, and go out and hunt for me. I don't know from the culture that there is any other reason other than game meat from hunting is prized highly, and also the fact that they just don't want to slaughter their own sheep. And the Isaac probably wants Esau to go put in work, because we know Esau took his birthright easily, so he wants him to put some, so to speak, idiomatically, some sweat equity into this blessing, this great blessing that he's about to give him. He wants him to put in the work and be serious about it and show that he's serious about it. So Jacob hesitates because even though he's twins with Esau, so they probably are built the same, and they probably even sound the same. Maybe not in manner of speaking, but their sound is similar. And he's thinking this is not going to work. But his mother seems to believe that it will. And he says, "But I'm hairless. I don't have hair on me." And his mother gets some sheep clothing, and she puts him on his hands and arms so that he feels as his brother Esau feels. And they fix the food. He walks into Isaac's tent, and Isaac can feel that something, he can't see, but he can feel that parental feeling that it's not for sure Esau. And it's too soon after he asked Esau to hunt. And Jacob lies, and he says that the Lord has blessed me, and I made the hunt very quickly. So after an exchange, Jacob gets the blessing from Isaac. Jacob gets the blessing from Isaac, and so then in verse 26 of chapter 27, we have this whole scene of Isaac asking Jacob, who he thinks is Esau, to get close to him. He smells his clothes. He kisses him, and this is a part of some of those blessing rituals. It's like you're giving this blessing is a life essence that you're passing on to this person who will inherit you. And he blesses him that he might have the fatness of the earth, that he might have the rains, that he might have the fruits of the earth, that nations will serve him. And here is the words in English. I'm usually reading from the Torah, from the Rabbi Gaon translation, because I really like it. But let me read the words in English. May God give you the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. These are important words, because whenever I read them, I think your brothers bowing down to your brothers, nations bow down to you, and Lord over your brothers. I don't think of Jacob. I think of Jacob's son Joseph, whose brothers will bow down to him, who will be very successful. He will manage to save both Egypt and Israel, because he's such an expert in maintaining the harvest of the earth, plenty of grain and wine. So this blessing, maybe Jacob didn't get it during his lifetime, because we know his life was very hard, but it is fulfilled most likely in Joseph. This is my personal opinion of it when I read it. But it's also interesting, and for another reason that I will explain in a minute. Now Jacob leaves, he's gotten the blessing. Esau comes in, And everyone realizes what has happened. Isaac realizes what has happened, and Esau cries this bitter cry. He's put in the work, he's put in the effort, he showed that he's serious about it, he cooked the food, and it was a trick. It wasn't fair to Esau. And this is in verse 36 is the line where he contrasts Bekorah and Baraka. He says to his father, he took my Bekorah, can't I have a Baraka? He took my birthright, can't I have a blessing? Very poetic. It's supposed to add an effect to the story and to your emotions as you read it. And Jacob says, I made him your Lord. I made all of his brethren his servants, and I've given him the fruit and of the earth and the wine and all of this other stuff. And Esau just cries again. And Jacob proceeds to give a blessing, but the blessing doesn't, it comes out even worse. He say, see, away from the fatness of the earth shall your home be, and away from the dew of heavens on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. So we have this situation where Esau has lost his blessing, has lost his birthright. He will live by the sword. And the writer of Genesis, or this blessing, gets fulfilled in the minds of that culture, in Esau's people, the Edomites, who do end up living in that manner historically. But like all instances in the narrative in Genesis so far, when people try to rely on their own thinking and their own trickery or stratagems or whatever they try to hasten the blessings of the Lord, and they don't rely on the Lord, Rebecca's planning ends up in chaos and tragedy. On one hand, Esau wants to kill his brother. Rebecca is worried that she's going to lose both her sons because of this, and she does lose Jacob in sorts. Jacob, who was with her in the tents, who was probably her comfort. She ends up losing him, and she sends him to Haran. She sends him to her family so that he can hide until Esau's anger is cooled down. Now this is a tradition also in the Middle East to this day, when there are tribal feuds or feuds within a family where there is some threat of bloodshed involved. In Arabic they call it forat dam. They basically have to hide and for a certain number of days until the other person who's angry or mad at you, for them means the literally boiling of the blood, until the blood is no longer boiling and there is no anger, and matters can be resolved using a tribal council between the families. And this is what Rebecca is doing here. She's sending him away until Esau's boiling of blood is he's calmed down, and there is a chance that there might be some reconciliation. So this is chapter 27. This is all I have for it. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been posting some things on the Facebook page under Jabber's Gospel Thoughts, some quick thoughts. I've posted a few so far, so if you want more information or want to know more, it's there as short video clips. Thank you and have a great day.